Alright, a little bit of an update. What I'm doing is I'm taking my roof supports and I'm putting supports on them, just like you would on your roof. When you put up your rafters, you have your supports in between the two. Number one, it's going to give me support for the actual frame itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach each one of these pieces to a board. It looks just like this. Matter of fact, this is the one. And it's going to go right here. That's going to sit inside this groove. Now what I've done is I've taken my router. I've put the guide on to keep it from slipping against the blade, so I have a little bit of distance there where I can actually figure the distance between my surface, which you can barely see it, the edge right here following this piece of wood on this guide, to cut a groove. Now what that groove is going to do is it's going to allow me the opportunity to put this in flush. So then once I measure out my distances for these, I'll go up the length of the board as much as I need, cut off what I don't, then it'll lay flush inside this groove, and in that way when I put my roofing on it, it will have some support there for the individual pieces. Every 14 inches it'll be across the top, but it'll also keep my frame from wobbling when I'm trying to put it in position. So, bit of an update for right now. I'll be back with more when I'm done with this part of the project. Okay, the first thing I do is I take my guides, I mount them to my board. You can see my guide marks there. I take my bit and I lower it down so where my guides are, you can see the distance between the bit and the wood. It's right on the bit. Now I have a guide adjuster right here on my plunge router where you can actually see the distance between the base and the actual guide. Now what I do is I take my piece of wood and I measure the distance between the wood there, and I slide it up and I make sure that when the router plunges up, it's the same distance as the width of the wood right there. So that way when I know how deep I want to gauge my wood into here. So what I do is I set it up, I make it even, I give myself my distance here at the gauge, and then I can adjust my plunge like halfway, so when I cut into it, like I did over here, it cuts down just enough to have my support in it so it's not over the top of the roof spar. Alright, so one more minute and I'll be done with that. Be right back. Okay, there they are. Cut in place. Each one of those grooves is pretty tight. That way it won't slip around a lot. That one's a little bit loose. Now they're a little tiny bit higher. Now the reason being is, this one's pretty tight. They're a little tiny bit higher. Reason being is when I set my seams, I want them to have the support they need, but I want the seams to be a teeny bit higher, like the center line. So when I put my caulking down it, it has a good backing and it doesn't go below the depth of the spar of the roof support. And that way when I put my caulking on it and stuff, I may take the chisel out and lower these down a little bit, or the triangular sander and bring them down a little bit. In that way it'll fit a little tiny bit better in there and be straight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the distance between these. I'm going to mark exactly where the marks are going to need to be, and then that way along the board's length to set those up, so I won't have to worry about trying to measure in between them as I'm handling the wood. So I'm going to pre-mark them. I'll be marking this one here for whatever my 14-inch width for my vent is, because I have to put my vent that is right up here in my trailer. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to center this whole piece by using my measurements from when I built the trailer to exterior because I don't want to have to try to take the roof all the way down to the actual first frame. So at that point, I'll be able to slap this up on top of the roof. I'm going to use some guides. I've decided that I'm going to take some number 8 nails, finishing nails. I'm going to put them in the corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, up through the roof part that you can see there that I put on when I first built the trailer. And I'm going to use that as a guide to fit the 14-inch distance for the vent area between these two, 14 inches wide by 14 inches long, square, and then that way it'll be ready to accept my framing. Alright, when I get more done, I'll be back.